Hey there, welcome to episode 124 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at the very, very late 10:10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time in the Greater Vegas area hour. Normally we publish on Thursdays. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2026. We normally publish on Thursdays closer to the morning. We're still closer to today's morning than next Thursday's morning, so we'll call it an overshot. Now, I had to do some other things today, so I had to delay today's episode production. But here we are. Today's title and topic, Economic Curses. If you're not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, let me tell you, the format is intended to be a conversation, a dialogue, a trialogue, to discuss, to debate, to argue around some particular topic. Today it's economic curses. To discuss or argue or debate what works, what does not, and what we might do about it. What I have found thus far in 124 episodes is that it is easier to plant some seeds for future conversations on a variety of topics because I have no idea where to look for someone who would want to speak of economic curses. But I'll put that out there, and then maybe somebody will hear it and say, I want to argue with that. And the outreach is part of an overarching plan for information sharing that we're working on in one of my other endeavors, the Innovate for Vegas Foundation. So at this point, we have a whole library of possible conversations into the future, and we'll get there eventually. But today it's economic curses. If you're not familiar with FFS talk in general, and you don't know what FFS stands for, well, maybe you should hang out with more Irish people. Good times. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I'll read to you. It's about 2 sentences, not bad. And then the links for today's episode, there are 2 of the usual audio program links and 2 Wikipedia links for today's episode. I'm sorry, one Wikipedia and 1 not Wikipedia. We'll get there. So let me get to that summary and we'll do a quick run through the links and on with the show. If we're lucky, we'll publish it before tomorrow. Today's summary, the so-called resource curse is a well-known concept. It has been around for a long time. I think it was 1700s. And the place I call home, Las Vegas, Nevada, has definitely suffered from it. I don't know if everybody would use the word suffered. In these modern times, there is a new curse in town, and it appears we might be ready to switch to that one, or maybe we'll enjoy both. The FFS Talk homepage, ffstalk.com. I will simply say someday. Well, I don't really get too much traffic there, so once again, part of the outreach effort will include a nicer looking, fully featured website. I'd like to invite people, if they find something they find interesting, if they come across and listen to something they find interesting, they should chime in and say, "Hey, I want to give my own take." So that's all in the offing. Too many things to do. Profile page linking everything is just over 5 years old. At buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page has links to all of my audio programs, projects, some biographical info, some affiliate links for things I actually use. And of course, you could buy me a coffee if you want to, although you are under no obligation to spend any money, but you can find all those links. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, and then buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts is where the Monday morning weekly Buy Me an Update is first published. Hence the name. After it's published at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts, it is published to the usual other places about 2 hours later. You can't really have a podcast without RSS feeds and whatnot. But it was inspired by my desire to add some value to the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile. Okay, enough about that. The resource curse, there's a Wikipedia page for it. You get the quick rundown. You will find lower in the document, it's pretty long. You will find lower down the Dutch disease. You can flip through that. It's not about a virus. But you can do the basic rundown. If you're familiar with the Vegas economy, I'm going to touch on that as our introductory material. But if you're familiar with the Vegas economy, you should be able to recognize how it's related. Or maybe you will believe it is not, and you will argue with me. And the intelligence curse is a term I just heard recently, and it's sort of a corollary to the resource curse. It doesn't have to do with extracting natural resources, is the usual, right? Oil, mining, maybe agricultural, but certainly for Nevada, it's mining, for example. But the intelligence curse has to do with not only the construction and deployment of profoundly expensive resources. So they're extracting energy and water, potable water probably, but also what this drive towards artificial intelligence infrastructure will do as we monetize, as they monetize those things to pay back the loans and to make them worthwhile and to keep upgrading them. If you're familiar with Moore's Law, every 18 months, give or take, I think it's been reasonably close. I think I read somewhere that recently it started to deviate, but I think they've gotten it back on track because for no reason they want to continue to make Moore's Law true. Specifically, it was about transistor density or technology advancement. But what it has been used for is basically to assess the growth or increase in compute performance every 18 months, and then it should double every 18 months. I think I have that right. Either way, with GPUs dominating, the Google TPU also becoming quite popular, the notion is that you have to just keep upgrading hardware to make your data center competitive. So as these data centers are being built, they're already becoming obsolete. So if it takes 3 years to build a data center, you've missed 2 upgrade cycles. So and then once you put the hardware in there, if there's hundreds of thousands of parts or more, then you got to go upgrade those every 18 months. Otherwise you fall behind and risk losing it all. It's kind of a weird craps game, I guess. Anyway, the intelligence curse seems like it's going to be different and yet just as painful because of what this curse, what the notion of the curse actually is. So, on to Vegas. Pardon me. I live in Las Vegas. I've mentioned that a few times on this program, and I produce another weekly, the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, which dives into our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem and the people making moves within it. I put a lot of thought into this in that context. I put a lot of thought into this episode, but I've been thinking about our challenges that we face here for a couple of years now. My background is engineering and economics. Okay. I recently came across the resource curse, when I was looking into Dutch disease, and I believe this sort of fits into the extraction economy as I described it for Nevada in an entire episode on the other program I mentioned. From its early days with silver mining to the modern day focus on tourism, gaming, and so on. You don't really think of tourism as an extraction economy, do you? But when you think about it for a little bit more, then you think, I guess it kind of is. As you'll discover on looking at the resource curse page on Wikipedia, when a particular resource can be extracted for economic benefit, so extraction of a natural resource is the common mode for this curse, hence the name. But if you flip through that page, there are some subtleties and whatnot. But it's essentially when you have something that doesn't really require cultivation. So oil, mining, these are a lot easier than farming. You got to put so much into that. But if you can just dig a hole in the ground and there's your economy, great. Put air quotes around great. It can become the main focus to the detriment of other economic pursuits. The effort to diversify the Southern Nevada economy only began in earnest in about 2018. And then the pandemic drop in tourism to historically low numbers was the booster that shone some light on the results of a prolonged resource curse. Although I guess the mining is still an issue. And of course the McDermott caldera up in Washoe County somewhere is going to be where the next big lithium boom is. So more extraction economy, nor more resource curse. Now, in these modern times, the intelligence curse is upon us with one data center project in Boulder City, which is near the dam, if you're familiar with the geography of Southern Nevada. So past Laughlin, no, not past Laughlin. Don't go past Laughlin. Go past Henderson to Boulder City. There you are. And they want to, whoever they is, wants to put in a data center. So the good people of Boulder City are protesting. And we already have the switch in Enterprise, which is the southern part of, it's south of Las Vegas in unincorporated Clark County. It's sort of west of Henderson, sort of. So we already have the switch, and there's another switch compound up in Reno, I think. They've made a business of it. So they're high efficiency, air cooled data centers and so on. So we already have that, and there'll be more. There are other compute resources in Southern Nevada, because of the nature of the world. It's becoming the thing you have to have. And these require water and power, which we do not necessarily have a lot of. Southern Nevada, it does lead the way in water conservation and recovery research so that we can make the most of the water we do have access to. And I guess we're going to dump it into much of the chagrin of the switch people. Why are you using all that water? And then, what are the outcomes of the intelligence curse, which goes all in on AI everywhere in pursuit of profit? Not to mention perceived efficiencies and the magic that comes from replacing humans with computers, robots, and automation in general. All of the things that did not get attention from our resource focus will fade a bit more when they are not AI. Like, what about education? We can teach young people with AI to learn about how AI works. Well, yeah, but isn't AI just going to take their job anyway? Well, don't tell them that. Well, won't their teachers tell them? No, because their teachers are AI. So what works? And I'm going to say it will work with AI more, the intelligence curse, than with the resource curse in the very short term. So if there's a way to undo the curse element, the availability of resources like silver, lithium, water, maybe, these can be an economic base from which to operate towards innovation, cultivation of other resources like farming, ranching, establishing and elevating education and the talent pool, building up your locality using the resource curse, but making it less of a curse and more of a money printing machine. Right? If you can make a lot of money from resources available in your region, do that, but don't forget about those other things. So if you can manage to do that and elevate, especially education, and then of course here, when tourism became a strong element of the Nevada economy, largely because we were kind of on the transit path to get to California. So people were passing through, you create hotels and other reasons to hang out, and then you provide some entertainment, and tourism becomes one of your things. It became a way to make Nevada, and Southern Nevada in particular, highly visible, enabling various other possibilities from there. So once people are already coming here, it's a great opportunity to show and tell, try out ideas, and so on. Kind of a side note, I have an effort called the Sentiment Research Collaboratory to do those sorts of things here in Southern Nevada. Pursuing the leading edge is usually a good idea to some degree, to the extent that it is possible in a particular geographical region. Let me fix that typo. Nevada has compute resources thanks to commercial pursuits, the switch, and others. It has some public educational resources, universities, schools. The Clark County School District, I think, is in the top 5, if it's maybe the 5th, but it's in the top 5, or historically has been in the top 5 largest school districts in the United States. And it is currently pursuing a diversification effort to embrace more modern technologies and more practical non-tourism possibilities. This could be a good thing in another element, to add other elements to the economic base. So it's sort of like providing the actual resources. Like, we can use the money from the mining to build up the other stuff. You can use that familiarity, the public image, the tendency for people to show up here sometimes. So you can kind of build on the financial inputs and the sort of the marketplace exposure, if you will. Whenever people are here, it's an opportunity to impress them. And then you add some incentives and keep them here. With a diversification effort comes the need for a diversified talent pool, which means education needs to reorient itself. Perhaps some infrastructure changes may be needed, and it is useful if there's a coherent plan and that somehow links the diversified elements of the changing economy, and of course a cohesive messaging plan, so that there is common awareness of how these elements fit together. And so a subtle aspect of this is if you have your educational infrastructure in place, and you have the beginnings of a new technology or a new focus. One of the key industry areas of focus for Southern Nevada will be manufacturing. So if manufacturing is starting to get some traction, you want to make sure your educational resources are aligned so that students will become aware of this new opportunity for a career path and they can receive education in that direction. So the diversification effort can drive the modernization or adaptation of the other elements of your economy and of your ecosystem, community, etc. So AI certainly has some role in our future as humans. What it is precisely may change a little bit in the short term, surely over the long term, as technology just continues to develop. Adopting this direction now is sensible, and making that adoption again possible through education, through community awareness, through communication. Here's what it is, here's what it isn't, here's what we hope to accomplish by adding this to our economy and to our, what we need from our workforce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as long as those things are in process or in motion, then it's possible to integrate diversified economy into the existing locality, maybe avoiding the curse. Maybe. It's possible. That would be a positive. What does not work? The core problem with the resource curse and any similar form of economic curse is the deduction of resources and focus. The dedication of resources and focus to this, which ends up being a deduction from everything else. What we can call low-hanging fruit, which for Nevada, if I can speak, which for Nevada, the low-hanging fruit is mining and tourism for the most part. That leads to a reduction or lack of focus at all, production by the street, or lack of focus at all on other economic opportunities and the other base elements. The most obvious example is Nevada being education. Nevada is not known for being in the top highly ranked states for education, quality outcomes, etc. We could fix that, but Nevada has been a state for 100 years, give or take, and they've only just started focusing on diversifying the economy since 2018, and only in the post-pandemic, essentially, have they really said, oh, that's right, education. So what doesn't work is when you wait that long. But we got all this mining and tourism with AI slated to take jobs away in the near term for a few reasons beyond the scope of this episode. It's complicated. Even claiming that AI will provide better education possibilities and will be the beginning of new job developments is risky. And that may not happen at all, while AI also reduces jobs in areas where the current talent pool is focused. Without a legacy of cultivation, I suggest we risk jumping from one resource curse to another. The new one labeled intelligence curse. So building a data center will help get Nevada's economy diversified. Will it? Because right now tourism is down and mining is still mining. We still have to truck our food in. The list goes on. When a resource curse is leaned into so heavily, the base economic elements can suffer. You can read about that in the Wikipedia article. Education, for example. But as well, there is a cultural momentum behind the resource or resources in question, such that they are presumed to be the way our economy works. Quote, the way our economy works, if you will. Maybe some people don't even dig that deeply. This leaves the population ill-prepared for diversification efforts, and in fact, they may find it difficult to fathom when the key focus of the current economy is pressured. What do you mean no more tourists? Who wouldn't want to come to Vegas? As is the case since 2025, since all year, 2025, for example, with a troubling decline in tourism in the greater Vegas area, which has had a material impact not only on the fun economy elements, that's professional sports, gaming, tourism, entertainment, and conventions. Conventions are not doing too bad, though. They're about where they usually are. But on local businesses in general, with the pressure placed on the local economy at large. So if there's less tourism, people who are paid as a result of tourism are bringing home less money. They may be laid off. They may have hours cut. They are spending less money. So not only are fewer tourists visiting smaller businesses off the strip, for example, but fewer local people are able to go out and spend discretionary income on eating at restaurants or buying more products at retail stores, etc. So general pressure across the board. And it's difficult to not draw a direct line between we're treating tourism, the fun economy, as a resource that we can extract from. And when it declines, our resource curse becomes very apparent. Lack of focus from above, lack of awareness at large, and lack of momentum moving forward is a problem. With so much skewed focus on the cursed element, so resource curse for mining and tourism. I'm trying to think if there's another one. I think it's basically silver, lithium, and gambling. Fun economy. There is no track record, no reputation, no experience in other markets. So even convincing the key industries collection of fintech, finance tech, fintech, manufacturing, healthcare, etc., you sort of have to establish a little bit of a track record, which means an accelerated and incentivized move to establish the diversified elements. So you basically have to convince people, hey, we're a total home base for healthcare. So as it happens, healthcare is actually a growing component of our economy. But as another example, and this can be costly, right? Because you have to give away money in lieu of experience and reputation, a track record. And this can be costly to the local economy. If we reflect for a moment on efforts to attract entertainment production, the so-called film bill, or more generally referred to as Hollywood 2.0 for Greater Vegas, and how soundly those efforts were defeated internally, we can see that was in the state legislature and state senate, three times each. We can see one example where an insufficient external reputation and a lack of awareness internally, like, do we need to be Hollywood 2.0? Like, what do we really get for it? And by the way, the bills that we're trying to get through our legislative body, our two houses of legislature, they received very negative marks from external consultancies that were evaluating their economic impact and the value that they would bring. They did not do well. So we would have been trying to establish ourselves in a bad way. Where am I? So there was really no way to make a good case. There was only a bad case for adding a new facet to the economy where there is no core support, no real champions to drive it, and so on. This may be a variation of the coherence and cohesion issue, which I have talked about at greater length in an appropriately named episode of the Cafe Genius Impresarios program, if you want to go check that out. We had Mark Wahlberg, so many people moving from Hollywood to Vegas. So he was trying to drive this effort. He moved to Florida with his family. So take that for what it's worth. Suffice to say, Greater Vegas and maybe Nevada has its work cut out for it. Your locality may also your locality may also have its work cut out for it in these interesting and chaotic times. So you may be in Nevada or somewhere else. But yeah, I think it's very difficult. If there was some silliness going on for a while that the Greater Vegas area was going to be the next Silicon Valley. And I would ask people, do you think Silicon Valley is going to be the next Las Vegas? They would laugh out loud. No, that's silly. Like, well, what makes you think you can snap your fingers and be the next Vegas? So it's not so easy to diversify an economy into a place where there are other localities that are very strong in those areas. So you really got to do some selling. And if people aren't buying it, your economic diversification efforts become expensive. It's very late in the game as a result of the resource curse doing so well for the state of Nevada for so long. And the lithium mining component of this is only a recent determination that the McDermott caldera is a legendary lithium strike. So the mining will continue. But if you can always count on local or access to resources locally as a substantial revenue generating element of your economy, you may be lulled into a sense of security that, oh, okay, well, we'll give tax breaks to the Gigafactory in Reno area. The Tesla Gigafactory, I think, is if that's still there. And we'll take that money from education budgeting. I've sat in a room with people who said, what do we get for investment in education? Really? You get smarter people, I guess. Send your kids here in 18 years, we'll ask them the same question. So what can we do about it? Obviously, this is a huge area for potential discussion. So I'm going to throw some areas out. I'm going to throw some ideas out, but this whole area is worthy of more conversation. If you're aware of a resource curse in your economy, determine whether whether this has been having the effects implied in the name of in your locality. That is, has there been a resource curse that is truly a curse, that is breaking your other systems, diminishing the value of educational budgeting and deployment and outcomes and so on. So if your educational infrastructure is suffering, or are there decisions made favoring this preferred element of the economy in what an outsider might call a risky manner? For example, like, God, why are you guys spending so much money on lithium mining? Other places have had lithium mining too. If externally the decisions seem questionable, that may be cause for alarm. It may be time to make some noise, to make others aware, or at least begin a conversation to engage elected officials, to run for office yourself, perhaps. You could go lobby your city council, your county commissions, your state government. These are the basic options to apply, and they apply to a variety of issues one might discover in your locality, where getting involved is essential. So if dumb decisions are being made, you kind of have to speak up. The effort here, the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program goes with the Cafe Genius Initiative 2026, which is off to a horribly slow start. But that includes the Genius Roundtable, a second cohort of it, if possible, which would focus on how our economy works, whether it's working or not, what we can do to change it, to steer it in a better direction, how enabled are entrepreneurs, how enabled is innovation, and so on. It's usually better to do, or at least it's a good idea to do these things with real people. You can always say, well, there's a public-private partnership. We have the LVGEA here, the Global Economic Alliance. Those are often not entrepreneurs trying to do entrepreneurial pursuing entrepreneurial endeavors in the present time. So they don't necessarily have the same sort of vested interest. Sure, they want to see the economy become diversified and whatnot, but they have a collection of objectives and key results they're aiming for, KPIs that they're measuring. You, as an entrepreneur, have a view through an entrepreneurial lens. You encounter the good and the bad on a daily basis. So when you talk about it, you're talking about what is happening and how you think it could be improved. Someone in a advisory agency role has a different motivation. Consider entrepreneurial endeavors. I myself am making the efforts in the Greater Vegas area to gather entrepreneurs to pay attention to the local economy. So I just described this, but here's a different way of stating it. And the factors that make the local entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem go, if you like. Awareness is the beginning of an entrepreneurial and or innovative journey. So knowing what you're getting yourself into, which may offer some insulation from the prevailing resource or intelligence curse, though this may only be a part of your and our efforts. So participating in the Genius Roundtable, for example, you will know more. Will you be able to change anything? Not sure. But will you know enough to avoid getting cursed? Maybe. Keep the options open beyond doing business locally. You may be based in Vegas, but that doesn't mean you have to do business in Vegas. You may not be based in Vegas, but you want to do business in Vegas. So being more familiar with which curses are where and how to avoid them and what you can do to keep yourself and your endeavors intact, moving around obstacles and over them and under them and so on, is a worthy endeavor. That's why I keep talking about it on the other program. If we can be glib, do what you can do to capitalize on the resources or other curse, the resource or other curse as much as possible in the near term. I cannot believe how many typos, like little typos. I wrote possibly, possible in the near term, to establish your own smaller scale escape path based on the financial gains and opportunities so derived. So if you can capitalize on the resource curse or the intelligence curse, try to do that for as long as you can, especially if nobody is listening to you from the other 2 points in this what can we do about it section. If you aren't looking out for yourself, your family, maybe your friends, who is? And I think I've probably already implied an answer here in Vegas. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. I really have only just started looking into this, but it does jibe with what I've been talking about in the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program topics with regard to especially the top-down approach to managing or exploring economic diversification and implementing some ideas or evaluating their value and impact over time. I think, and I always use the Formula One race as an example. So we don't have to get into that too much here because I've already done that. But the take home is understanding the fragility of your local economy may help you make better decisions about where you want to place your wagers, so to speak. And if gambling is legal where you are, maybe you're placing actual wagers as well. But that's the take home. If you have ideas about this, you want to discuss, here I am. Bring it on. Thank you for listening as always. Take care and keep an eye out for those intelligence curses. They are most definitely coming. Bye-bye.